Are we live, Kim? All right. Thank you so much. Okay, so we'll continue with our committee reports. Audit committee, any comments? Questions for Dawn or Mr. Latka? No? All right. Okay, I'll just go through each one at a time, but for next time, we'll just move along quickly if you have comment on each, and then we'll go that way. Okay, we have finance committee. Any comments or question for Trustee Sarwa, who is the chair, and Mr. Latka? I see no hands up. Okay, labor. Any questions or comments there? Okay. Fred. Labor will become active come the next year, so let's stay tuned for that as the negotiations kicks in. ASBA. Okay, and congratulations again to Trustee Miller for stepping up into the Edmonton Regional Learning Consortium there to be a rep. Wonderful. Then for
also
Trustee
to
Donna,
Jolene, also to Jolene.
To Jolene, and yourself as alternates to the Edwin Parr program. And again, the King's University Field Experience Advisory. All of these are some of the external works that is being done to support students as they come into the move forward in their education and into their adult lives. Thank you. ACSTA. Sorry.
I was just going to say it is important if you have ideas as far as professional development to please let me know so I can bring it forward at our zone meeting. Thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah, ACSTA, any few of us were on the no, we were all at a conference, and as well there will be some ongoing work, and Trustee Miller, I believe, will keep filling us in as some of those work move along into the next year. Thank you. Okay, so those are all the reports I've seen.
Mr. Chair, did Trustee Tugwood have a question regarding the ACSTA report?
Yes, I did.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I just noticed on your report, it says that you're a part of the hiring committee for the executive director. Have they met yet, and have they shortlisted? Do you have something on the horizon quite quickly?
Absolutely. Thank you, Trustee Tugwood, for that question. We did meet last Friday, and all that has been done right now is we've created a timeline plan. We've engaged with a hiring company, and we will be moving forward on that. So my next report should have some more information.
Wonderful.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dawn.
Yeah, thank you, Dawn. Okay, I will. Any more questions for reports? And thank you, trustees. I believe we are trying to turn the corner around here, trying to submit written reports, so then it's easier once it's in the package. You have any question as we get to it, then we just move along quickly. It's my hope that I don't keep you all too long at meetings. Thank you. So
Henry, I do have one additional question.
Okay.
I do have an additional question for ACSTA for Dawn. I was wondering about the portal. Have they talked about the portal and when that might be effective? Because I would like to use that.
Thank you for that question. No, there has been no discussion. Our next board meeting will be February 10th and 11th, I believe. There is plans to hold a few committee meetings prior to that February date. So those resolutions that came forward at the annual general meeting will be discussed sometime before February or at the February meeting.
Okay. Trustee Taylor Sarwa, I see your hands up.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So what you're saying is from now on, we will not be having verbal reports at the end of each committee meeting. We just submit the written report before the agenda. Is that correct?
Yes, please. And then that is included. And then any additional comments that comes after the agenda, we just submit it or talk about it briefly as is. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. If there are no further questions, we'll move to 5.6. And I would like, on that note, is it about a year and a half? It's been almost 2 years, I believe, that we engage on having a school council handbook. So an ad hoc committee was created to support that work. And I would like to thank the following people that help us create. And again, as we do know, we have a vast jurisdiction, and we try as best as we can to have some of these handbooks to support the work of school councils around our communities, simply because not all councils have in-depth knowledge about sometimes how things are done at school councils. And especially we know there's the Alberta School Council Association that also help in that regard, but it's always good to have a stepping point, and that's what brought about some of these discussions. And the handbook, I believe, is now ready to go. And I would like to thank the following people that were instrumental in creating that handbook. Past trustee, Sandra Bernard from Drayton Valley area. She was instrumental in that, as well as past chair, Michelle Lamer from Leduc, and then past chair, John Tompkinson from the Wetaskiwin area. So these were all people that were familiar with the decision to help support that work. And now with our own current trustee, Miller, who was also part of that ad hoc group that created it. So we'd like to say thank you on behalf of the division for supporting, help our school councils learn and grow, and we are able to support our local needs. Thank you. Right. Okay, we will move to some business items here. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Trustee Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question on that. I believe we had our last committee meeting before the elections happened. Where are we with that, and what would the next steps be in that for the school council handbook?
I'll defer that to Mr. Bouchard to give me an update in that operation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you're aware, Assistant Superintendent Cardinal has been the administrative rep on that committee. So I'll ask her for an update on where we're at with things.
Absolutely. Actually, I have the last draft right here, thanks to Caitlin. So I simply have to go through it and just make sure that everything is okay in regards to edits, etc. And then once that happens, then it can be distributed to administrators, who will then distribute it to school council chairs.
Thank you. Any further questions? No. All right. So business items, we'll go to see my board chair report is attached. Any question or comments? Okay, I see none. Oh, okay. Trustee Miller.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm just trying to go through my my paper here and find it, but is there any area that you would like to expand on? It kind of gives titles and topics, but not necessarily information. Sorry, and I'm trying to find it. I don't have any specific questions on any area, just if there's
No
anything
specific.
more that you'd like to say.
Okay. So if I go back to communication, ASBA, ACSTA emails, as those come in, I try to forward those to trustees for their information and learning and updates on things that are happening. That's an area. If you go to committee of the whole meetings, we've had a couple of them before the AGM, right? If you look at the Archbishop and Catholic Chair Boards meeting, we do have that every year, and especially in an election year. And so then all new trustees and board chairs that have come on meet with the bishop just to have that sense of Catholicity and how we fit in and how we do things. So then that what separates us from public boards as to some of our dual role. If again, we have the BOMAT community consultation there, which we were all there the first night. I wasn't able to attend the second night. So all of these are some of the, so they are just bullet formats, so unless you have some specific question. And okay. All right, Michael, I see your hands up. Trustee Leonard.
Yeah, I guess I have a specific question about one of the points here. I wasn't able to make it to the Beaumont community consultation. I was wondering how that went, and maybe Trustee Taylor Searwalk can also respond to that.
Okay, so we can say that went well both nights, and we have it recorded and put online. And I believe Mr. Bouchard will give us the summary as to the survey that went out later part. Mr. Bouchard, is that later part or in December? Can't remember.
I'll touch on it in my report if you would like.
Yeah, in his report. Perfect. Okay. All right. So we'll move to, so that flowed very well then. We'll move into the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. All right, so you have before you the report, and there's a little bit longer between the last board meeting and this one, so a lot has happened. The next report will likely be a little shorter because it's hard to believe we're meeting again in a couple of weeks, but I'll touch under...
Mr. Bouchard, just before you start, for the newer trustees, do you want to give a recap on why you've highlighted some yellow in there? So it just
yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so just a few things about the report. So the highlighted means that there's a connection to the board priority and goal. I wouldn't mind having that discussion with trustees, perhaps at your retreat, where you talk about your evaluation, but I don't know if this is meeting your needs. That's a question I'll ask. Anything that's italicized means that it was directly done by somebody that is supervised by me, I guess, indirectly or directly. So those aren't things that I actually did myself, but they are things that I'm accountable for, and that's why they're in the report. Is that okay, Mr. Chair? Is that what you're after? Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
So in the fourth standard, visionary leadership, I just want to mention that on Friday we had a learning day. We had three wonderful speakers that spoke to the division. There was a focus on the first session, faith. The second session was on relationships and mental health. And then the third session was on kind of dealing and managing through the pandemic. So we originally last year had talked about the learning day theme being pandemic recovery. Well, it soon became obvious in October that we weren't recovering from the pandemic. We were still in the pandemic. And we're also hearing from students, parents, staff that mental health and wellness was an important piece. So all of the 3 sessions, even the faith session, was all kind of connected around that theme. Initial reports from staff was that the day was a wonderful day, and it kind of gave them a chance to refocus and refresh. I'd also like to, in section 5, highlight the 3rd bullet down, the learning loss grant. So Star Catholic received $258,000, and that is part 1, I'll say, of the grant, and that's to address the needs of students in grades 2 and 3. We will get another round of funding after the grade 1 assessment period in the new year. So more to come on that. But what I will say is that each of the schools that have those grades did an assessment in early September of the students in literacy and numeracy, and based on that, there was a determination of which students needed interventions. So the money was distributed in a 2-part process. One is a flat amount for each school, and then also a per student amount, depending on the amount of students that needed interventions. Now, each school had to submit to Assistant Superintendent Cardinal a plan of how they were to use their money, which was done. So to provide interventions to those students. So that has happened at each of those sites. Also at central office, we've hired a coordinator to oversee the work and to coach teachers in those interventions. We also spent some money on resources to deliver the interventions. So there's been a number of things that have taken place in that area. Also later on in the report, you will see that there's been advertisements and people hired. All of that is now full speed ahead, and those students are having interventions delivered to them in grades 2 and 3. In section 8, I would like to highlight 3 different things. So the Beaumont community consultation. So as was asked by Trustee Linner, that community consultation happened. There were 2 separate evenings. We had more people attend the first session, and that session had more questions, just the way it worked. But after the sessions were over, we submitted or sent out to parents a survey asking them for feedback in specific areas. And I've asked Caitlin to send out a reminder. I believe that's happened. I see her nodding. So to parents, again, to complete the survey. But the intention is to bring the results of that survey to the December board meeting to have a discussion by the Board of Trustees about what are the next steps regarding possible reconfiguration of those 2 schools that are in Beaumont. So that survey closes this week, and then we'll compile the themes. Any trustee who wants to see the full report, again, will have access to that. But that is kind of what's happening on that consultation front. I want to mention or provide trustees with some feedback on the Archbishop meeting. And just by way of feedback from the school administration, principals and vice principals wanted me to pass back to you as trustees that they appreciated being invited to that meeting. They found it very beneficial, and I know it was the first time that they had been invited to the Archbishop priest meeting. But they did find that insightful and beneficial in their work, so thank you for that. I will let you know further to the Beaumont High School process that the superintendent of Black Gold, Bill Romanchuk, myself, and Mike Schwartz, the CAO of Beaumont, were meeting this Friday. And then there's also a follow-up meeting to the August 26th meeting that happened between the city developers and the school divisions. There is another meeting in December. That was always a follow-up to that. And I believe Trustee Sirois has been invited to that. So it'll be myself, Secretary Treasurer Lotka, and Black Gold and the city and the developers will be meeting. But further to that, I will let trustees know that I have submitted to the province a request for some funding. Actually, we've asked for $25,000. That's to contract an architect to see what a 3 or 4 story school might look like on a small property. There is one piece of land in Lakeview that is 8.4 acres. So we're waiting to hear back from Alberta Ed. If they release the funding that we've requested, we'll be able to do an assessment of the school, the actual building, the footprint on the site. What will it look like with parking? Because there's code requirements for parking. And then would there be additional field space on that site? So we're hoping that we can get the funding for that, which would allow us to possibly then have a commitment letter from the developer and the city saying that that site would be ready to go if we were announced. If that happens, and we'll talk about this in December, to me, it's full speed ahead with advocacy at that point. And we can talk about what that means. But I'll just let you know that the proposal for grant funding has been submitted to the province. So that is what I wanted to highlight. I'll be happy to entertain any questions related to any other items or those items I've highlighted.
Thank you, Mr. Bouchard, for that work and for submitting that application on our behalf. Any question? Yeah, I see your hand, Trustee Tagwood.
Thank you. I just have one question about building effective relationships, and I was just curious. It says you the Cross Ministry Connection Committee. Could you explain just what that means by cross ministry?
Mm-hmm. So I'll ask Assistant Superintendent Cardinal to comment on that.
Sorry, can you please tell me which point you're speaking of?
It's number 2. It's about bullet number 7, I believe. Cross Ministry Connections Committee meeting. I was just curious what was meant by cross ministries.
That is Claire. So that is in Claire's portfolio. And my understanding is that has to do with I believe that it's a committee that she struck to put together different ministries, but I don't know for 100% sure. I can certainly report back.
Okay.
So by ministries, you mean religious ministries? You're talking about that type of thing? Or
Yes, I believe so.
okay, I wasn't sure if it's like Ministry of Education, Ministry of Environment, this kind of thing. I just wondered what it meant. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I believe, don't quote me on that, but there's a department or a cross ministry sessions that do happen between social services, children's services, and education once in a while, but I don't know those timelines. Yeah. But from what she's saying, I'm sure maybe Claire's work under the religious ministries within the province and the area here. Okay, Trustees Terasarawa, go ahead.
Mr. Chair. Charlie, this is for you. First of all, thank you for submitting the funding proposal application. That's wonderful. And I was just wondering, how long do we think before we would hear a response from them?
So when I spoke with Roman from Alberta Ed, he wasn't sure how long it would take, but the only indication I got is he was optimistic that they would be approved, but he said he wasn't able to commit to any kind of timeline.
Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Miller, I see your hands up.
Thank you. Under building effective relationships, under the 8th bullet, I guess sub 1, talking about FASD, I'm just wondering, is that, I guess, a focus area or a great need in our district with that affliction?
Right. So that was a topic of discussion from the instructional coach for wellness, resiliency, and partnerships. It's not a targeted board priority in any way, but it is something that we are mindful of and we continue to do work on.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Trustee Tagwood, I see your hands up.
Yes, thank you. My question would be about from number 6, First Nations, Métis and Inuit education. And it was spoke here about the Walking Together site. I tried to find that site. Is that the American Walking Together site? I wasn't sure what site you were referring to there.
Yeah, my understanding that's an Alberta
Did we get
education
that link,
website, Walking
perhaps?
Together. That's an Alberta education website created by First Nation, Métis and
okay.
Inuit people with Alberta Ed in partnership to work with staff. And it's actually a built-in training. It's a great site. Yeah, anybody can access it.
Okay.
It's actually an Alberta Teachers Association website.
So if you just typed in Walking Together, I couldn't find anything under Alberta Teachers.
Yeah, Walking Together, and if you type in Alberta Teachers Association.
So it would have to be ATA.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Trustee Miller, if for a second before you, Mr. Bouchard, since we're on the Métis portfolio, have we heard anything back since our last letter to the nations for representation?
Nothing yet, Mr. Chair.
Nothing yet. Okay. Can you please follow up before our December meeting, see where they are at, if we have to do something different, please?
I can do that, you bet.
Okay, please. Thank you. Trustee Miller.
Thank you. Under number 7, operations and resources, the 9th and the 19th bullets. My first question in this is that the one and the same? Are they related? And is this in regards to any of the grant funding that we have received in this area for grades, I believe, 2 and 3?
Okay,
that's correct. Trustee Miller. Yeah, those are all related to the literacy numeracy grant that I spoke of, the $258,000.
Okay, thank you. May I ask another question, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, go ahead.
Heading number 3, professional learning, in bullet number 5, regarding the recruitment and retention of French immersion teachers. Can you expand on that a little bit or tell me more about that? Is this not an area of focus necessarily in the division, but is this something that is of need here?
Thank you. So I believe that was Assistant Superintendent Malloy that attended that, so I'll get her to speak to it.
Yes, it's certainly this was in partnership with CAS and the CAS Fall Conference. Part of the conference is it was a project taking place in Ontario where 2 individuals have a French immersion teacher consultation, recruitment and retention program. So I was able to attend that session, understand what they're doing to recruit and to retain, and collaborate with all other assistant superintendents, specific with human resources in Alberta, on how this is certainly a need around Alberta on how we can recruit and branch the interest for French immersion teachers. So it was an excellent session. And of course, with Star Catholic, we are interested in recruiting and retaining French immersion teachers. So it was very applicable for our division as well.
Thank you. Do you have another question, Trustee Miller? Your hand is up.
I do. Thank you. Sometimes I forget to put my hand down, but yes, I still have one more question. First, I want to thank Director Malloy, I guess, for that information through Superintendent Bouchard. I think recruiting and retaining the French immersion teachers in our area is very important, especially that we're looking to expand that program into Father-le-Duc. My last question is, and this one I'm not sure, it's not necessarily part of the report, but was there any feedback in regards to the engagement for the curriculum that we had with our greater community virtually a little while ago?
Yes, I can speak to that. That work is still ongoing. Actually, I just got an email last night there will be the final session before the full report it's out. But what is going to happen is that all of this work is happening in different silos. So that's the ASBA's portion of the work. Superintendents are also doing their work, as well as ACSTA trying to support the Catholicity part of the work. So the final report, once it's out, I will share with trustees. But again, we've been cautioned here and there. It's going to be a very closed report. So I'll be mindful of that once it's ready before I share it. Okay. So yeah, everything was submitted. I've been to the 3 sessions. Even the day of the ASBA conference, yeah, we had another session, and the final session is coming on the 1st for the final report to be out. Okay, so that report will be coming.
Yeah, I would just add to that, Trustee Miller. So the feedback from the engagement session was summarized for the chair to take to ASBA, but that the very next day, at the request of school councils, that was shared with all school councils. The feedback from, or all the feedback from that engagement session. So every school council got that.
Okay, I see Assistant Superintendent Cardinal's hand up.
Yes, my apologies, Chair Eflin. I panicked when I was asked that question, but now I'm looking back in my notes. And yes, you are absolutely 100% correct, Trustee Tugwood, in your question in regards to the ministry. So yes, this cross ministry is in regards to health, education, etc. that met together, and that was Chris Piro that had attended that meeting. So that's what that was about. So I just wanted to correct my information.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought too, because I know that cross ministry work that is ongoing, and then health became part of it since the pandemic, very, very aggressively to support the work. Awesome. Thank you. So, all right, I see no hands up. Okay, we will move along to, I see the Secretary Treasurer's report. He's been talking money all day here. Do you still want to talk money, or you end it with a comment?
I'll add a couple of comments in terms of kind of the period as well. In terms of my report, my apologies that I don't have a written report. I'll circulate that to trustees and have it included with the agenda afterwards. But a couple of things to note. Of course, the financial statements, which you've seen a presentation on, considerable amount of time in the end of November. But speaking from the last board meeting and prior to that is, of course, activities related to the general election. So kind of those have been the 2 items. The other thing I'd like to highlight too, because again, there's been considerable discussion of late with regards to insurance rates for vehicles, and specifically what contract bus operators may be facing. As such, we have had a request from one of our contractors looking for support. And we'll be taking a look at that and moving forward. So see what the division can do within the budget that's been set by transportation already.
Thank you. Any question for Mr. Larka? No. Okay. I see no hands up. We're getting close to noon. I'm thinking will be a natural break to come back and hear about the Father Lacombe signage. If we can take a break now and come back at 1, would that be okay? All right. Gives everybody time to catch up with everything, and then we'll come back. So I will ask, we break from now